Hi guys, so there's something I wanted to quickly talk about. Um, I already mentioned that I had a quite hard couple of weeks because of a lot of things kind of piled up together, and um, there's been a lot of noise in my life. Just literally, there was a lot. I mentioned problems with my neighbor and my, they've been doing some renovation stuff, and all that together. Just I don't know. I started being super sensitive to the noise around me, despite regular meditation practice, which is kind of supposed to um, calm you down in a way and make you um, create a little bit more space around you and more peace, really. And actually, to a certain level, yes, and then suddenly it started being, I started being even more sensitive and just heard noise everywhere, and I was thinking like, okay, I'm gonna start doing this earlier in the morning since I changed my routine and I started waking up early. But even like 7 o'clock wasn't early enough. I just felt that the world is waking up, and suddenly I can hear the cars and people going to work, and it was driving me crazy. But I was, persisting in the practice. I was very determined to kind of get myself together, like kind of get to the next, I don't know, next level of my potential, or things I always wanted to kind of get under control and improve in my life. So I started really like seriously working on these things, and I was quite satisfied for a while. I was quite happy with my progress, we can say. Um, and then suddenly, every now and then in my life, basically, it's like in circles or in waves. These things kind of, you have to keep reminding yourself about these things that you always knew, kind of. And sometimes when shit hits the fan and everything falls apart, and you kind of you have no choice but to put yourself back together and to seek something that will help you regain this balance. So it can be, for example, I don't know, it can be, everybody's got their own way of, kind of regrouping yourself, or getting your balance back. So for me, it would be, for example, definitely exercise helps, and meditation helps, and positive diet changes, and just taking care of yourself in general, and making sure that all these aspects of your life are taken care of. Like emotional and physical and all that stuff is just being kind of put into awareness, instead of just kind of running around and letting yourself just responding to whatever is happening, and kind of falling into certain habits which might no longer serve you. So whenever you kind of you put, you make these actions, or just uh, things that you consciously want to improve, I think that helps a lot with dealing with certain situations and what is happening. So sometimes, basically, you go back to your routine and you start doing your stuff, and it makes you feel good, and you're exercising, and it's like, yeah, I'm feeling good, and I'm healthy. And then something happens, and especially when you're under pressure, especially when there's something stressful that happens, that's the moment when it's difficult, because that's where when you slip, that's when you start breaking a little bit your routine. That's when your self-discipline is failing a little bit. That's very often, we get so carried away with emotions and with stuff that is around us, and a lot of just practical real life stuff can happen that can that can make us leave our good habits and just kind of fall into despair or some other you're just busy dealing with shit really. And actually this is when you need to do these things even more, and this is when all this you basically like put certain system, like self-defense system in place, certain mechanism of coping with all the stressful things. That's what the discipline does. You're kind of building up all this, and that's the problem, that all this, first of all, like when you're doing the good things when you're doing things that are positive, it's very often very hard work, and you don't see the effects straight away. It's not like you're obviously all the, otherwise there wouldn't be I don't know, it's so much easier to grab this cookie and have this instant gratification feeling than obviously say no to the cookie and have and benefit from that later on. Obviously that's what makes us adults and self-aware creatures, but it's obviously it's not that simple. That's the idea, but it is it is harder to resist temptation and have the benefits later on. And like this, it's like this with everything. I think that it takes a lot of work to build something good, and very little work to go back to kind of fuck it all up really and to go to mess things up. And this is, it seems unfair. It seems like I'm working so hard every day, and I can't see effects until much later. Why the hell am I doing this while there's so much other stuff that is asking for my attention, and that is some of these things can give you like the instant buzz. I mean, I'm talking very generally now, because it can be a lot of stuff and a lot of different things for each for every person, each person, and so that's it. So nobody's kind of every day you're not getting praise for doing the good stuff, but when you do the bad stuff and this is kind of maybe unfair to put things in a black and white category, but you kind of know yourself what's good for you, and what's really good for you, and what's like a substitute and just like a quick fix that it's not really sustainable in a long run. So where I was going with this, I have to kind of remind myself where I was going with that. So that's the moment where it's gonna cut. I'm just gonna cut it. So the point was, hang on a second. So my point was, I was doing all these things, and something happened in my life. A couple of things happened, and suddenly everything just started falling apart. Like all this, details, not detail, but all these things I was putting in place, and I was very happy with that, and feeling like, oh yes, finally I'm getting somewhere. I'm feeling, very much in peace with myself, and suddenly just everything went fuck itself. And I'm like, and I was in this state of mind, and I was crying. I was really miserable, and I was just thinking like, I'm getting crazy, like I'm losing my mind again, because I felt, I went for different things in life, but there were moments like this really desperate and kind of like howling moments when you're just like lying on the floor and you don't know what to do with yourself, and you don't know where is your mind anymore? I mean, you don't know what's happening with you, and you're thinking like you're going nuts, you're going completely crazy, and you don't even know what to do with yourself. And sometimes, people tend to have. We all have some ways of coping with that, and a lot of us have not always healthy ways to cope with things, and a lot of people, go um, into some kind of we self-medicate with a lot of different things, be it cigarettes, alcohol, shopping, sugar, drugs, and things like that, and self-harm also, and a lot of or unhealthy relationships, and we tend to fall into these things that kind of manifest our desperation. We kind of uh, have a way to materialize the things that are uh, intangible, because you can't really, when you feel the pain, emotional pain, it's that's why people self-harm, for example, because then you kind of can make this pain a real thing. You deal with the physical pain, and this is like kind of like a symbol or a person. How shall I say? It's like a physical representation of your emotional pain, and then you have to deal with this. Like, at least you know what you're dealing with, and you can kind of release it. But obviously, it's not healthy long term. And sometimes when you have no longer, you kind of know that that's not gonna get you anywhere. It's very hard, because then you're just kind of, it's only you and this thing, and you really have to put some new healthy mechanism in place. And before you do that, there's this moment when it's just you and the pain, and you don't know. It's very hard, because you know that you can't fool yourself anymore with all these other substitutes and all these other unhealthy habits. So I was in this moment, and I was thinking like, oh, for fuck's sake, all this self-development, all this kind of the research and this work I'm doing, and this self-discipline, and all this new healthy habits I'm implementing, and I've been so passionate about stuff, and so interested, and so involved practically in a lot of just my inner work, basically, and my kind of self-development, and expanding my self-awareness, and kind of at times being a little bit pain in the ass for other people when I kind of want to, I've mentioned that already, that I kind of want to help others and kind of I don't know, share with them what I know, or share what I've learned. I'm kind of enlightened, and which is that's not a good that's a very tricky thing, because you can't put yourself kind of above, just because you know something or you've learned something which is good for you at this very moment, and you can't go and crusade and think you know everything now, and the only true way to live happily and whatever. So that's very tricky. And but definitely, there were things that, especially the closest people, because like everyone, you might not necessarily care about everyone in your life, but there are certain people you definitely you see them struggling with something, and you definitely would like to, especially when it's something that you've been struggling with as well, then you obviously want to help them, and you want to give them hints and tips, tricks, and whatever. So and that can be painful to to watch. I was thinking, like, why am I again in this place? Like, why all this work for nothing? And I'm feeling so so disappointed in myself. And what the hell? I was supposed to know things. I was supposed to go deeper in that and get further, whatever that means. Closer to enlightenment or whatever. I'm clever. Um, I'm self-aware. I'm a mature person, and here I am crying and you know, and I thought, okay, there's a couple of things, because it's not like you learned something and it's done, and it's like, okay, it's here, it's here forever. You, like everything, like every knowledge, you have to revisit subjects, you have to revisit things, you have to experience things again as a different person, as as a new you, as a new, as you grow, as you change, you expand your experience, and your you become more mature, and you revisit the same subjects or the same situations, and that gives you a chance to deal with them differently this time, or to to put yourself back together quicker, because everybody's gonna fall again, like everybody's gonna struggle again. It's not like we just can erase something and never have this problem ever again in our life. Some things are just, they will keep on coming back, like a lot of people with depression, it's not just like before and after. Like a lot of people with addictions, it's not just that you're an addict, you go to a therapy, and you come out on the other side as this brand new person, and as if nothing ever happened. No, this is like a constant, this work never ends really. But you learn how to deal with stuff quicker and more efficiently, and maybe, yes, maybe you will cry again, and you will lose your mind again, but you will come back. And the more you do these things, the more you know from your experience that there it will pass, and there will be better time, and there will be not just better time, but there, what to do. That it's like, okay, I see what's happening. This time I'm not gonna make the same mistake again. I'm gonna do things different, or I'm gonna just put myself back together, because I know that I'm like, I've experienced my worth, or my the feeling of self-love that I haven't before, and I've learned it. So I thought that that's more like from this moment when you feel desperate, or you feel like you're losing your mind, you can have, the more you train yourself with these things, and with generally self-awareness, and when you take care of yourself mentally and physically and all this stuff, when this happens, you kind of have a choice, and you have this moment of when you can make a decision more consciously, where you can, that from this moment, last time you slipped, you slide down, this time you can pick yourself up, because it's possible now, for example. So that was that I was just thinking that sometimes everything has to crash down, so it can renew itself, and that's kind of how I saw it, so how I've seen it. Okay. So that's something I wanted to mention. And also there's something that was on my mind, that my friend, sometimes, every now and then, I do say something personal on Facebook. I try not to do that, because I think there isn't really much use of this. I think that Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna talk about this some other time because it's gonna be too long, too long of a video, and I'd like to wrap it up and just thank you for listening. That's what I wanted to say, and so if you like it, you know, like things in general, like and subscribe or say hello or whatever. So I'll see you guys very soon. Take care.